convention in Lee Summit, Missouri, I did a seminar about Indiana's modern classic line, which is an Art Deco line that is very popular with many collectors. They're very interested in it, and so I thought, okay, let's do something about their other enamel decorations, their other painted decorations. So that's kind of what this is, and I will be perfectly honest, some of these we know about and some of them we don't, and I'll explain that as we go along. Okay, some of these are documented decorations, some of them are not, or we just haven't figured out which ones they are. All right, so Indiana Glass started in the early 1900s. They did some decorations with their EAPG patterns. That was pretty typical for many of the companies at that point in time that did. They would do some gold designs on them. They did have one pattern, especially bird and strawberry, where the birds were painted blue and the strawberries were painted red. Okay, so they've been doing this for quite a long time, decorating their glassware. And so I'm going to start at this end of the table, and I'm going to work my way that way. So, and I'll get to this in a minute. I just kind of wanted to have it up there because we're going to get to these pages in just a few minutes. The pieces right here are from the late 1920s. Okay, and this was kind of the beginning of their really getting into decorating. They did have a decorating room at the factory in Dunkirk. Many people don't know that. Others probably don't want to acknowledge it, but they did. Because some of their catalogs, especially for a pattern like this is pattern number 4. You can find catalogs that say that it will have a yellow, orange, I've got a blue piece out on the display table out there with a black trim. Okay, so their catalogs do mention that. So like I said, these are just a few of the pieces that I have in my collection. And if anybody hasn't figured out between here and the other room, I love center handled servers. I have no idea why. They're not the easiest thing to display, not the easiest thing to store, but I love them. I'm fascinated with them. So I have quite a few. I think I have about 75 of those. So, so like I said, this is pattern number 4. Again, 1920s era. This is another pattern that you're probably familiar with. This is Old English. It is in many of the Depression glass books. They're written by various authors. And they did decorate it. You typically find it in green or amber, sometimes pink glass, but they did make it in crystal and they did decorate it. And I've got 2 examples here. So you see they're slightly different, but they do decorate. They did start decorating this. I mean, and with Old English, you can see, if you really look closely at most pieces, it didn't hold up well. Okay? These 2 pieces happen to be orange and black. Out on the display table, I've got a dark green color with the black trim. I've seen a really neat a purple one with the black trim. So they did that as well. And then here's something else that they would have done. This is, and I know some of the line numbers off the top of my head. This is line number 165. And cream and sugar set. As you see, it's got an enamel in there and a gold trim. So that was pretty, again, these are pretty simple decorations that they would have done in the 1920s. It wasn't until the 1930s when they really started getting into the decorating and really kind of stepping out of what we would typically think. Now I'm going to talk about these up here, okay? And I'm going to kind of go through these. I have 3 of these. Almost 20 years ago now, in the early 2000s, there was actually an Indiana Glass Society. started and run by Craig Shenning, who has written several books on Indiana glass. And Craig has been able over the years to find many catalogs and various other documentation of Indiana glass. Now, as with most glass companies, you can, if you get an original catalog, you get to see the various pieces that they did, and you might have an idea of some of the decorations. Indiana is not like that. Their catalogs don't always show the decorations. But they would do something that they refer to as a price guide, which is just a price list of the various patterns, and it said how much, you know, if you want a dozen of this, how much does it cost, and that. I have copies of 3 of them, thanks to Craig Shenning and the Indiana Glass Society, and that's what I've printed out here. But as you can see, you really have to kind of pick up and read the clues. And I don't know all of these. I know some of them, but some of them, like if you look, well, number 10 up there, yellow, green, red with white or orange with ivory platinum edge. What does that mean? Nobody knows. We might be able to piece it together, but I don't know. But like I said, some of them you can tell, because the first one, this one right here, okay, collectors typically call it ships. It is number 700. And it says white, orange, or ivory body, ships and trimming same color, platinum edge. So there it is right there. I will say this is the only piece that I have with the orange background and the black ships. Typically, if you find a piece of this, it's going to be a white background with blue ships. This is the most commonly found color combination with these. Okay? And I should say, Indiana, when they really started doing this, did not stick to one line number of glass. You've got to think about it as a blank piece. They would just get whatever they needed to fill that order. So these 2 pieces happen to be number 607. Double fleur-de-lis is what people typically call it. And that's the glass, not the decoration. Okay? This little mayo bowl is actually, the glass itself is pattern 602. Okay? Sadly, I haven't broken a piece of glass in years. The little underplate for this mayo got broken while I was stacking to come up here. So, and the candlestick is number 603. That's the line number for the glass, but it's still the 700 decoration. Okay? Then if we look down at decoration number 701, white, yellow, or ivory body, ships and trimming different color, platinum edge. So there you go. Okay? Now, this sugar and creamer, and I've got a creamer, I don't have a creamer to match this. This is their 257 line. The sugar and creamer are the only ones in it. To confuse things, Westmoreland made an identical sugar and creamer. I believe they call it 1011. And you have to know your decorations. You have to know what you're looking at to know whether Indiana made it or Westmoreland made it. Okay? But because it's got the 701 decoration on it, this piece was made by Indiana. Okay? All right. So when we look down here, where's that? I'm trying to find this one. Most people refer to this as the desert aisle decoration. Oh, is it on the next page? Let's see. No, it's not. It's got to be on this page. Oh well. This is the desert aisle decoration. And it will always look like this. It's always going to have an ivory background. It's got the palm trees and the ocean in the background. And this brings up a point because if you look, I've got a relish with the same decoration, but they've taken and they've modified it so it would fit the piece better. Okay? So, but like I said, you can find it, and just like they did with these creamers and sugars that I mentioned, this candlestick, the 603 candlestick, is pretty consistently used. You'll see several of these out here on the table with various decorations on it. It was kind of their go-to decorating candle to work with. Okay? And I should say, if you have any questions, please stop me. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Okay? Alright, so now we are actually going to switch. This is a different list from a different price guide, different year. And we're going to talk about decoration number 1, which happens to be a gold dragon. Okay? You don't see the dragons very often. These are the only 2 pieces that I have with the gold dragon. Sadly, I had the other candlestick and it was broke while in shipping. So, but they've done a nice job with the gold dragon. Okay? And then, here's decoration number 2, a platinum dragon. Okay? But again, it's got the gold enamel, or the green enamel, and the silver dragon, the platinum dragon in there. Now, where's this one at? This one is on here, I know that. And this happens to be the only piece that I have with this decoration. This one's not an easy one to find. And it's a little hanging basket. It's got a gold chain on it. And this is not an easy one to find. So, I'd love to find a console bowl to go with my candlestick. But I don't know if I'll ever get that. Let's see. It's gotta be, I put these in order when I put them out. I promise I did. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, now, I'm going to talk about these pieces right here, and I need to talk about the fact that I believe, and I don't know that there's any actual proof that they did it, that Indiana worked with various other companies. In the case of these pieces right here, they worked with Homer Laughlin. And Homer Laughlin had 3 or 4 different lines, and I found a video up on YouTube by searching for Homer Laughlin Mexican, I think, is what I put in it for the search. And it comes up, and there's a man who explains each of these different line numbers. And so what Homer Laughlin did was they created a dinner line, and they decorated it with this, okay? And then they contracted, I believe, I don't know this for a fact, they contracted with Indiana, And they use what they call right here, decoration number 732, Mexican vases, ivory body, red trim. Okay? These are identical to what you see on a piece of Homer Laughlin in this line. I was surprised. I found that out. I didn't know anything about that. I was at one of our conventions, and one of our dealers was selling pieces of Homer Laughlin with one of these designs on it. I thought, wait a minute, that looks way too familiar. And so, yeah, I saw this YouTube video a couple weeks ago, and that's what I think happened. I don't have any proof of that. And again, they did it on a variety of pieces. Here's a big cake plate. I think I've got a center handled server out on the display area with that. This one is 733, Mexican house. Okay? And then we have 734, Mexican peasant. So there is a fourth one up there, cactus, ivory or champagne body. I don't have an example of that. Here's kind of an exception. This is another one of their candlesticks that they did. There's our Mexican peasant on it. Okay. So, like I said, I can't prove that they had a connection with Homer Laughlin. I strongly suspect they did. And they did it with another company as well. I'll get to that decoration in a minute. Okay, so let's see. This is one of my favorites because it's really hard to find, and I think they did a really nice job with it. It's windmills, and it is decoration number 739. Okay, so they did windmills, and again, you see they had to slightly alter the image to make it fit on a piece because it was smaller. Okay, I have, if you look at this was 39, 740, blue windmill. I've never seen any pieces with blue windmills. I would assume it would be like the ships over there, white background, blue. I've never seen any of those for sale anywhere. So, I don't know, maybe they weren't as popular. I don't know. Like I said, the windmill's one of my favorite decorations that they did. Then we have lovebirds. This is, okay, so they had two lovebirds. Okay, two lovebirds. 744 is lovebirds gold trim ivory back. 745 is lovebirds platinum trim green and white combination. So that's what this is. I've never seen a piece of 744 for sale, never, anywhere. And I have seen a couple of these come up for sale. It's always this same bowl. It's always this size. I think they probably had, my guess is they probably had a harder time adapting the decoration to fit on a different size pieces. I don't know. That's just a guess for me. I'd love to have a cream or sugar set with those lovebirds on it, but I've not ever seen them. Okay. Now, all right, so here's the last one. And I kind of pointed this out because, oh, which one did they change? This was the late, in terms of, I went from the earliest to the latest in terms of when these price guides were published by the company. This was the last one that I have, probably from the early 1940s. And they changed the numbers of some of them. So evidently at some point in time they decided, oh no, we don't want to call it that decoration number anymore, we want to change it. So they did that. And that's where we get these. The fruit basket is up here. Now, the fruit basket, was done with either kind of a pink enamel, an ivory, or a white. This one right here, sadly, I've forgotten the line number for it, because I only know it because there's a lady in Pittsburgh who has, and I have one of the compotes out there, but she has a compote with an original Indiana factory label on it, where they designate what the decoration is. And sadly, I've forgotten, I've lost those notes of what it was, but so I know this was an Indiana decoration. And you find this occasionally, so like I said, I think it's very pretty. Okay, so I talked about Homer Laughlin over here. I'm going to talk about these pieces right here. This decoration is almost identical to the azalea pattern that Noritake did in the 30s and 40s. So, again, I can't prove that there was a connection between the two companies, but I strongly believe that at some point in time, Noritake had a contract with Indiana to make glass items as supplements to the dinner line that they created. And you can find this center-handled servers, candlesticks, some bowls, a cheese set. Sadly, I have about 3 of these. I can't find the underplates to go with it. So I don't know if they were just damaged quite frequently or not. Okay. These are the ones we know about. Well, oh no, I'm sorry. I got one more. I do have a catalog that has an original decoration shown in it. If I can get out of the way. This is special decoration number 604. And most people, when they talk about this, they call it the water lily. But again, nice little pattern. This, based on the logo on the catalog, I suspect is from the late 1940s, early 1950s. But when you look up here, you see the various different, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different line numbers of glass that they use the same decoration. So like I said, they just kind of pulled with what they had, and that's what they did. Okay? And I am beginning to see more of this pattern for sale in various places. So it's one you can find. Okay. Now's where we get to the interesting part. Because from here on out, I can't say for certain that Indiana did the decorations. But I will tell you, with most of these decorations, I've only ever seen them on pieces of Indiana glass. So, yeah, I'm like 90% sure, but I'm not going to say, yes, it's a done deal. Now, the other thing, okay, so these two right here are what is typically referred to as the dogwood pattern, the dogwood decoration. And again, it's only ever been found on pieces of Indiana glass. Craig Shenning did show this in his first book, 100 Years of Indiana Glass, or I can't remember if that's the true title, but it's pretty close. But he did show the dogwood pattern, and he showed the various pieces that it was in. I do not know a decoration number, but this brings up the fact that I need to mention someone who worked at the factory. The head of their decorating department, probably from, well, he probably worked in it in the 30s, but by we got kind of into the 40s and 50s, he became the head of the decorating department. And his name was Jack Hilly. And he is responsible for many of the floral decorations that you see on pieces of Indiana glass. He came up with these decorations and probably trained the people on what to do with them. And I will say, and I'll get to it in a minute, the Glass Museum in Dunkirk, Indiana, which is where Indiana Glass was located, has a nice display about Mr. Hilly. And it talks about his work and what he did at the company. And I will say, sadly, I was foolish enough not to get all the information. When I was there one time, I happened to, one of the volunteers came in, and she was a lady who worked in the decorating room in the factory. And I wasn't expecting anything like that, right? I had something to take notes or, you know. And so she's like, oh yeah, we decorated. We did all kinds of things in the factory. Sadly, I didn't get her name or anything. I was not prepared for that. Didn't expect to run into somebody that worked in the factory. So sadly, I missed out on that chance. This decoration is one that I really like. The flowers are very similar to the pieces on dogwood. They have a similar style. But this, they've done an amber stain to kind of highlight the pieces. So I think it's just a really nice design, nice clean design. Here's another center-handled server. Again, different kind of flower, but there are some very similar elements in the overall design of all of them when they're put together. And I should say, somebody was in here beforehand and asked, I'd already asked a question. Most of this glass is crystal, and they decorated it. I have a few pieces in green. So they did decorate some of their colored glass, but not much of it. And then here's another one that I have. Here's a nice candy dish. Just a pink enamel bottom base. And then the top is white with, again, some flowers on it. This is a nice, pretty set, and I have seen other pieces with this decoration on it, but it's always got this nice, I guess you'd say sky blue or robin's egg blue with that little, almost like a daisy or an aster on it. So I have seen some of those, and actually, now that I think about it, and I'm not sure I bought these pieces together. The flower on the bowl is more purple. On the candlestick, they're more pink. Like I said, I can't remember if I bought these together or not. So you might find different colored flowers on there. Okay, let's talk about the roses. Okay, so I typically see these for sale with the green enamel band and red roses painted on it. This is the only pink one. So the roses have a similar style, similar design, but it's the only one with that pink border on it. The difference in the way they've done the gold accents there too. This has kind of a lattice on it. This is more simple. Okay. And this decoration, the pink rose with platinum leaves, white and light blue, it's one that I see fairly often listed for sale in various places. So you can find pieces with this. I've got a candlestick. I don't remember what I have out on the table in the display area, but again, this is one you can find frequently. This one, however, is not something I see as often as there's no blue on this. And if you look, the roses, that middle rose is a little bit bigger than they are on some of the other. Now, is that with this not having any blue? I don't know, or did they just change it for the bowl? But I should point out the candles are different. With the blue base and white, the candles are on the rim up here. They're not. They're on the base down here. And these roses are bigger than these roses. I don't know. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So, here's a very interesting decoration. And I think I have a center handle server out on the table out there. So I have found it on at least one other piece. I may have a candlestick at home, I can't remember. But just a nice floral decoration. Here's one that's almost, here's another different kind of floral decoration that you can find. And I like this one. With the orange base, the white, the orange flowers, and the platinum leaves. I think that one's really very nice. So you don't see this one very often, but it's something nice to have. Now, my guess is this is from the 40s, 50s, because that's when the pattern, this is pattern 1011, teardrop, most people call it. So this is when it came out. This one has, with the thorns on it, it's almost like a wild rose kind of a decoration. But I've got a set here that's pink and red flowers on it. Okay, these next two decorations are kind of interesting because you can also find these with the decoration etched on them. This is a documented Indiana etch. Craig showed me a catalog page that he had that had this etch in it, and it was etched. And you find it more frequently etched. I have quite a few pieces with the etching on it. But this is not an etch. This is done in enamel. It's otherwise smooth. So, not something you see very often done this way. And I've got it in 3 different colors. So, again, I know that's based on an Indiana etch, but that's about all I know. This one, same thing. It's a rose etch, and I do have pieces of Indiana glass with this etch, this same exact etch on them. But here they've done the same design with enamel. So, like I said, it's very, I strongly believe Indiana did a lot of these right in through here. I can't prove it yet. Okay? Now, here's one. This is a Lorraine, number 615, little dessert plate. But obviously, they've painted it. And actually, to me, it kind of hides the design of the pattern more doing it this way. This piece is interesting. Remember I talked about Jack Hilly? The museum in Dunkirk has a huge table laid out with pink enamel with gold flowers, and it was a set that he made for one of his daughters as a wedding present. Now, did they make more of that? Obviously they did, because I got a piece. But I've never seen any more of it for sale. I happened to find this on eBay probably about 20 years ago. And I've never seen another piece for sale. But it's a beautiful display that they have in Dunkirk with that table. So, this one I know was done in Dunkirk. We also have some more simple kind of designs, not flowers. This one is very simple. They've just done a black enamel right there at the base of the handle to highlight it. I've got several pieces where they've done that. I've got creamers and sugars with just a black handle. This pair happens to have these little, I have no idea what you call those, little designs. But, so, and here's another center handle server in green, but it's got the same little red and black design on it. And here's a little mayo set, very simple, red lines, black border. This was an interesting design. I love the red, blue, and green that they've done with it. I've got a console set with this. Again, I've never seen this design, this decoration on anything else. So I don't know, was it one they did and didn't like and just got rid of what they did it with? I don't know. Now we're going to talk about ones that don't typically, these last ones right here, that don't typically resemble some of the other ones that they've done here. This is a little child's sugar and creamer set. I should know this line number and I can't. But obviously it's been decorated. These flowers don't look as clean and crisp and neat as some of the others that they have over there. So again, I'm not totally sure that this was done in Dunkirk, maybe. I don't know. Since this was a child set from an earlier, almost EAPG pattern, that time frame, like late teens, early 20s, maybe, but I don't know. I've got a tea room sugar creamer tray, and these flowers are really, they're just circles with a dot in the, a clear dot in the middle. So again, doesn't resemble any of the other things that they did in Dunkirk, so I don't know if it was done there or not. This big cake plate. Very different kind of decoration, not something typically seen from Indiana, so I don't know that Indiana did this one. But again, I've never seen another one for sale, or anywhere, so I don't know. And same with the design on this relish. So, I think this is my favorite decoration because it's so unusual. But it is very different from what anything else you see on here. So I don't know. I know the glass was made by Indiana. I don't know that they did the decoration. I'd like to believe so. I'd like to find other pieces, but I don't know. So again, you know, when you look at some of these price guides that I had over here, or the listed decorations from some of these price guides, we don't know what the decorations look like. And we don't know if there's any paperwork that survived. I would hope that Lancaster Colony when they tore down the factory in Dunkirk, kept that kind of paperwork. I don't know. I know that the museum in Dunkirk did get some of the morgue items out of the factory before it was torn down. I think they got some paperwork too, but I don't know that they've gone through it all. So, like I said, decorated Indiana is just something that I really like. It's what I enjoy looking for, finding. I will tell you, some of the decorations I've shown you today are available out on the floor from some of the dealers. I'll let you go find them. I won't tell you who. But like I said, it's just very interesting, and I think I like the fact that it is kind of a mystery as to what some of these really are and what the intent for the decoration was and everything. So that's why I enjoy kind of looking for it. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. Have you ever seen cups and saucers? Because they have creamers and sugars so much.
In that set on Dunkirk, they had cups and saucers.
I remember seeing that table, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't remember exactly what was on it.
I seem to remember cups and saucers there.
But generally speaking, you've not seen cups and saucers.
No, in some of, this is the only time. Yeah, you don't see cups and saucers in these. And I think part of it may be that Indiana, if you look at some of their lines, like 607, really, the glass, not the decoration, the glass, they really didn't have. It was big serving pieces like this. There is a sugar and creamer in this. You don't find those very often. But they just didn't have, they didn't do a lot of serving lines. I mean, they had cups and saucers in Vernon and Lorraine and Daisy and Artura right here. But they didn't even, like Pyramid has no cups and saucers. Horseshoe does. I'm trying to think of some of the others. But 602, this right here, which this is one that drives me crazy. This is the glass is pattern number 602. And the thing with Indiana, lots of, Cambridge did an octagon shape, Imperial did one, several other companies did one. The design element with 602 is that the little ridge that separates, the little area that separates the panels, it's a double ridge, where the other companies were a single ridge. So you see that in 602, Artura, which Artura is easy because it's the only nonagon, the only 9-sided pattern ever made. So you can find that, but again, it's got that double ridge. So they just didn't do a lot of cups and saucers with all their lines. I mean, it's not something they typically had. They had them with some, but not all. Anything else?
Did you skip the green, the light green?
Oh, I did. You're right. Again, this is an interesting one. I think this is from the 40s or 50s because this is a, what do they call this? Willow, oleander, or magnolia?
Oleander.
Yeah. Okay. Base with a lotus blossom top. Now, and it goes together because there's a little spot of gold on the handle here. So they intended to do the gold accent, but I don't know that could have been done by a decorating company, for all I know. I don't know that. But Indiana certainly did use gold, and this is certainly not color of green, but so I'm not going to say it's not Indiana. It could be. So, okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Were these designs hand painted or were they transfers?
They were hand painted. As far as I understand it, they were hand painted.
They all look the same.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, okay, the dogwood, okay, most of the time you're gonna find it, you look at the kind of, let me show it up here a little better. The uniform design of the flower. I ran across a set with blue band, and you see how there's this one petal that doesn't go out, it goes across. And all the pieces that I have with that blue border have that same design in the flower. I don't know why they did that, but they did. Somebody must have had a bad day that day, I don't know.
The guy that was hired to do that was absent.
So,
She got tired.
so yeah, as far as I know, most of this was done by hand.
You had the one piece there, the etch design on it?
Well, not a true edge. This one's not an edge.
Okay, but you had gold there?
Yeah, but this one,
So, did they do that themselves, or did it farmed it out?
no, I think they did this in Dunkirk.
Did they do other pieces, other patterns, or? I don't know.
In terms of, like I said, based on edges, these are the only two that I found like that. The rose and the dancer. There may be others, but there are other etches that, again, I have no proof, but they've only ever been seen on Indiana, so I really think they were done by Indiana.
I was wondering, because that's really a costly process, it takes maybe a person to do this
Right.
and that, pass it on.
Right. Yeah, so. Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you. I'm so glad you came.